The strangest thing about happiness is that some people spend their entire lives chasing it, then panic the moment they find it. Not consciously, not dramatically, quietly, almost invisibly. Life finally gets better. The relationship feels secure. The anxiety eases up. The future looks promising. And instead of enjoying it, you start preparing for its disappearance. You look for cracks, warning signs, reasons not to trust it. As if happiness isn't a gift, as if it's a trap. And if you've ever done that, you're not alone. In fact, there's a good chance you've been doing it for years without realizing it. Because most people think they're afraid of failure. They're not. Failure is familiar. Failure makes sense. You know what failure looks like. You know how to prepare for it. What many people are secretly afraid of is losing something good, and that fear can be even stronger. Think about the last thing you deeply wanted, not something small, something that mattered. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was acceptance. Maybe it was peace. Maybe it was finally feeling like your life was moving in the right direction. Remember how badly you wanted it? Now remember what happened when it got close. Suddenly you became cautious, suspicious, anxious. Your mind started asking questions. What if it doesn't last? What if I mess this up? What if they change their mind? What if something goes wrong? And just like that, the thing you wanted became the thing you were terrified of losing. That's when happiness quietly transforms into pressure, and most people never notice it's happening. Here's something strange. You can spend years wishing for peace, then spend your first peaceful week wondering what you're forgetting. You can pray for stability, then feel uncomfortable when life finally becomes stable. You can dream about finding someone who truly understands you, then become anxious when someone finally does. Why? Why would the human mind react this way? The answer begins with a simple fact. Your brain was never designed to make you happy. It was designed to keep you alive. For most of human history, survival depended on spotting danger, not appreciating good moments, not feeling grateful, not relaxing. Danger mattered more, because missing one threat could cost everything. Missing one happy moment couldn't. So your brain evolved to become exceptionally good at finding problems, even when there aren't any, especially when there aren't any. Have you ever noticed how your mind becomes louder when life gets quiet? That's not an accident. When there is no obvious threat to focus on, your brain starts searching for one, like a security guard walking through an empty building, checking every door, every window, every corner, making sure nothing is wrong. The problem is that sometimes nothing is wrong, but your brain keeps searching anyway. And eventually it finds something, or invents something, or worries about something that hasn't happened. Not because you're weak, not because you're negative, because your mind is doing the job it was built to do. But that's only half the story. The deeper reason is much more personal. Imagine two children. One grows up in a predictable environment. Love feels safe. Support feels consistent. Good moments usually stay good moments. The other child grows up differently. Maybe praise was followed by criticism. Maybe calm days were followed by conflict. Maybe affection appeared and disappeared without warning. Maybe every time life felt good, something painful happened shortly after. Now imagine both children become adults. Who do you think will feel safer with happiness? The first one, because happiness feels familiar. The second one often experiences something completely different. To them, happiness can feel dangerous. Not because happiness hurts, because in their experience, good things were often followed by pain. So their brain creates an unconscious rule. Don't get too excited. Don't get attached. Don't trust it. Don't hope too much. Stay prepared. Stay guarded. Stay ready. And years later, that rule is still running in the background, like software you forgot was installed. You might call it realism. You might call it being practical. You might call it protecting yourself. But sometimes it's fear wearing a smarter disguise. And this is where things become costly, because fear doesn't always tell you to run. Sometimes fear tells you to hesitate, to overthink, to delay, to doubt, to keep one foot outside the door just in case. Have you ever ended something before it could disappoint you? Pulled away from someone who cared about you? Talked yourself out of an opportunity? Stopped trying when success started becoming possible? If so, you probably weren't trying to destroy your happiness. You were trying to protect yourself from future pain. But here's the cruel trick. The same wall that keeps pain out keeps happiness out too. And that's how people slowly build lives that feel safe but empty, predictable but unfulfilling, protected but disconnected. Because every meaningful experience requires vulnerability. Love requires vulnerability. Friendship requires vulnerability. Dreams require vulnerability. Growth requires vulnerability. Happiness requires vulnerability. There is no version of happiness where nothing can go wrong. That version doesn't exist, which brings us to the biggest misunderstanding of all. Most people believe happiness comes from certainty. They think, once I know everything will work out, then I'll relax, then I'll feel safe, then I'll be happy. But certainty is a mirage. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody gets guarantees. Nobody gets permanent safety. The happiest people aren't the people who have certainty. They're the people who stop demanding certainty before allowing themselves to feel joy. Read that again, because it changes everything. The happiest people aren't fearless. They aren't lucky. They aren't protected from loss. They simply understand something most people don't. Pain is part of life. Loss is part of life. Uncertainty is part of life. But avoiding happiness doesn't protect you from those things. It only guarantees less happiness. Think about how much of your life has been spent preparing for bad things that never happened. How many moments were stolen by worries that never came true? How many beautiful experiences were interrupted by your own anticipation of disaster? What if the real danger isn't trusting happiness? What if the real danger is never allowing yourself to experience it? Because one day you'll look back, not on the risks you took, not on the mistakes you made, not on the moments when you hoped. You'll look back on the moments you refused to live because you were too busy preparing for loss. And that's a far heavier regret. So the next time life gives you a good moment, a peaceful moment, a meaningful moment, a happy moment, don't immediately search for the catch. Don't rush to predict the ending. Don't turn joy into a problem that needs solving. Just stay there for a little longer. Let yourself experience it fully, because happiness was never asking you for certainty. It was only asking you for presence. And maybe the reason happiness feels so uncomfortable sometimes isn't because it's dangerous. Maybe it's because you've spent so much of your life surviving that you've forgotten what it feels like to simply live. And that might be the saddest paradox of all. The people who deserve happiness the most are often the ones most afraid to hold on to it, not because they're broken, not because they're weak, but because somewhere along the way, they learned that losing something good hurts. What they never learned is that refusing to embrace it hurts even more. So when happiness finally knocks on your door, don't spend the entire visit worrying about when it will leave. Open the door, sit with it, listen to it, experience it, because life was never about keeping happiness forever. It was about being brave enough to feel it while it's here.